Was said at the DACA meeting. Deals can't get made when there's no trust. Durbin blew DACA and is hurting our military. That from the president. But while two Republican senators in the room, Tom Cotton and David Perdue, suggested yesterday that Durbin did not accurately convey what the president said, another GOP senator, you mentioned him, Lindsey Graham, seemed to take a poke at his fellow Republicans by saying today his own recollection has not evolved like the others, and suggested that he rebuked the president in person for what he said. Interesting, because as the president insisted to reporters over this weekend he's not a racist before he had dinner with House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy. You see him there in Palm Beach, Florida. Old tape surfaced of Lindsey Graham using a similar slam on countries like Mexico, while Republican Rand Paul came out to say the president, as a businessman before he was in politics, helped fund the eye doctor's humanitarian trip to Haiti and elsewhere. Watch.
No, I'm not a racist. I am the least racist person you have ever interviewed. That I can tell you.
The people coming across the southern border live in hellholes. They don't like that. They want to come here. Our problem is we can't have everybody in the world who lives in a hellhole coming to America.
I asked for donations before I went on the trip, and one of them was to businessman Donald J. Trump, who not only helped with the trip to Haiti, but also helped with a previous trip that we took to Central America.
As all this happens, more and more likely we're going to face a government shutdown. The government runs out of funding Friday at midnight, which means if there's not a budget deal by then, Sean, there'll be a government shutdown on Saturday, the one-year anniversary of the president's inaugural, Sean.
All right, 2 points. One, the government never shuts down. Non-essential employees get a furlough, and then they always get paid back. The government really does stay open in spite of what the doom and gloom media says.
Sure.
By the way, did Rand Paul just say that Donald Trump, who wasn't running for president, cared enough about people from Haiti that he donated money to help in these operations and helped a couple of hundred people?
He was an eye doctor before, and still is, obviously, but before he ever entered politics. Rand Paul, known as a doctor, went on these trips. And in fact, he says that Donald Trump, as a businessman, stepped up and funded not just that trip to Haiti, but at least one other trip as well. So these are humanitarian missions that Rand Paul gets credit for, but he's trying to speak out amid this controversy to say the president got involved as well.
I haven't heard that on any other newscast. Thank you, Ed Henry. We appreciate it. And all right, without any further ado, it is time for tonight's breaking news, important opening monologue. All right, tonight, evidence of rampant bias among special counsel Robert Mueller's team now emerging. We have been following this. We have new information tonight. Sarah Carter reporting Andrew Weissman met with the Associated Press and journalists. He did it last April to talk about the AP's investigation into Paul Manafort. The very next day, the Associated Press published a major story about Paul Manafort, thank you, Andrew Weissman, regarding alleged money laundering. Now, sources have told Sarah Carter that in that meeting, the AP reporters, they promised to share documents and information about Manafort with the Department of Justice. By the way, a lot more media collusion that we will be having in coming days. The AP, of course, denying that part of the story. Here's what should be concerning to every American tonight. During the meeting with reporters, Andrew Weissman, the #1 guy appointed by Robert Mueller, the head of the Justice Department's fraud division, and he then later, not long after, joined Mueller's investigation to look into Paul Manafort the next month. And according to Sarah Carter's reporting, Weissman told his superiors about the conversation with the AP, and during that time, he wasn't working on the Manafort case and did not have access to any documents related to it. Here's the thing. Weissman was discussing Paul Manafort with those reporters and then joined Mueller's team where he's leading the case against Manafort. Now, he was prejudging the case, prejudiced. There's a massive conflict of interest. We obviously see what's going on here. And then there's Weissman's disturbing history on top of it. Why would Robert Mueller ever appoint this guy that led the obstruction of justice case against Arthur Andersen Accounting in the Enron scandal back in the 2000s? Tens of thousands of people lost their jobs. They're out of business. Thank you, Weissman. The Supreme Court overturned a ruling, 9-0, in the case. Weissman's job was a mess. And people also, and by the way, exculpatory evidence in one case that he withheld, and also responsible for putting 4 Merrill Lynch executives behind bars. Well, you might not care about Merrill Lynch guys, But guess what? They were innocent. Their convictions also overturned, this time by the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. You'd care if it was your family. Did Robert Mueller, did he ever bother to check Weissman's history? No, because he already knew it. They're best friends. And Mueller also didn't seem to mind that members of his investigation donated 50 grand to Obama, Clinton, and the DNC, not one penny given to Donald Trump. This is political bias. This proves the investigation has been and continues to be a total partisan sham and witch hunt and an embarrassment if you believe in the rule of law. It is so important tonight, and why I am saying Andrew Weissman not only needs to be fired, but fully investigated. And Robert Mueller has a lot of explaining to do about his team of Democratic witch hunters, and they certainly need to be disbanded. It is why the special counsel needs to be shut down once and for all. And no, the president doesn't need to answer any of their questions because it's so fundamentally corrupt. Congressman Jim Jordan, he is seeing what's going on with Mueller's partisan probe. He is one of a handful of lawmakers that is interested in the truth. He's been asking the right questions. Take a look at the side of your screen. Congressman Jordan will scroll slowly. A list of 18 imperative, crucial questions that need to be answered. I urge you to take a close look at these, and we'll bring it up later in the show. Here's a few that stand out. Was the dossier the basis for securing the FISA warrant to spy on a presidential candidate and on an opposition party and on a president-elect? And why won't the FBI show Congress the FISA application? We know the answer. We just learned last week, sources telling me that at first the FISA warrant was denied to spy on members of the Trump campaign. Very rare for that to happen. Then the dossier was used to then put it over the top, and they got the FISA warrant. We also need to know, did the FBI validate and corroborate that dossier? I'm being told that a Clinton supporter did. How would we trust them? These questions are the same ones we've been asking. Hillary Clinton bought and paid for it. She's going to have one of her sick, corrupt cartel friends verify it? Here's a key part. None of them have to do with Hillary Clinton's email server, by the way. This is just the 18 questions on one thing. It's only about the Clinton bought and paid for Russian propaganda dossier. Let's see. We know, for example, that the Obama administration politicized, weaponized America's powerful tools of intelligence. Not the rank and file, just a few select at the top. Then they were spying on an opposition party. That would be Donald Trump. And what is being exposed is a massive abuse to the Constitution. We'll have more with Mark Levin on that tonight. Now, think through this. Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson, he's the person that created the fake news dossier. He's now being exposed. In a released congressional testimony, Simpson claimed that the FBI had a human source inside the Trump organization that helped corroborate aspects of the phony dossier. Well, it turns out Simpson wasn't accurate in his testimony. Oh, lied? Fusion GPS has since attempted to correct the record now by saying there wasn't an FBI mole inside Trump Tower. Was there or wasn't there? Instead, it was former Trump advisor, they say, George Papadopoulos. And that was blown out of the water because Papadopoulos, if you believe this highly suspect New York Times reporting, started the whole Russia investigation by getting drunk and then running his mouth to an Australian diplomat about Russia having dirt on Hillary Clinton. And the drunk gossip, you'd have to believe, eventually made it to the FBI, and they reportedly then used it to start the investigation. Oh, 4 levels of hearsay. It's, what, at a nightclub? Really? All the FBI needs to do to investigate a political party during a campaign, talk to a drunk guy at a bar. That's why we need answers tonight. And finally, you have a major update on the Uranium One scandal that no one else in the media covers. According to reports, federal authorities have now announced an indictment in the Russian bribery scheme connected to the corrupt deal that gave Putin and Russia and those bad actors control of 20% of America's uranium supply, which we have short supply of. Former shipping company executive Mark Lambert, he's now being accused of money laundering, foreign bribery, wire fraud for allegedly bribing a Russian energy official in an effort to secure the shipping contracts, which we have informed you about is so important. And this new information is only a small piece of the bigger picture of the corruption here. This indictment is only a preview of coming attractions. Here to react to all of these stories tonight, former Deputy Assistant to the President, Fox News contributor Sebastian Gorka, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Let's go to Weissman. Let's go. We reported last week the Justice Department had opened up, it's now been going on for months, an investigation into Uranium One. Is this the first of many cards to fall?
Yeah, it probably is. And, you know, your opening monologue about Weissman is right on point. If this guy actually exchanged information about Manafort and then joined the investigation into Manafort, he's violating DOJ rules.
What would you do if you're Manafort's attorneys tonight?
I would do one of two things. I would file a motion to dismiss, which would trigger the judge to order Weissman to show up in court and explain
immediately.
Himself immediately.
Would any judge accept this conflict and his track record?
Any good judge would not. Which is why the second thing I would do is make a motion for order of inquiry into the conflict of interest and list Manafort and others like Rod Rosenstein as witnesses in the case, because they are.
How soon can you expedite that?
You could do it within 30 to 60 days.
Wow.
And if they are designated to be defense witnesses, they have to be removed from the case because they
have to be.
Yeah, they would absolutely.
Am I over the target? Is this all as corrupt as I think?
It is as corrupt. It's probably more corrupt than we know.
Sebastian Gorka, your take on all this. A lot of moving parts here tonight.
Look, Greg outlined exactly the conflict of interest issue, but I'd like to just pull it up a bit to the strategic level. And I know you've got Mark coming on, Mark Levin, the great one.
Thank you.
I don't want to steal his thunder, but Mark Levin has nailed it on his show today on radio. He's talking about this as a domestic surveillance scandal, and that's what it is. America doesn't have a secret police. It doesn't have an internal police force that spies on its own citizens for political reasons. At least it didn't until President Obama became the president. We now have a story that you can read in the unclassified press about Russian disinformation material being paid for by the FBI and being used to get FISA warrants to spy on U.S. nationals who are part of a political campaign.
By the way, and opposition party candidates in an election year, and then spy on the president-elect. All right, I want to ask an offbeat question.
Sure.
If we know WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, and I've interviewed him 5 times, if we know he's the one guy that knows where he got the information from the DNC, the emails, etc.
Right.
Why hasn't Mueller contacted him? Wouldn't he be the one guy that you'd want to talk to find out if Russia gave it to him?
Yes, but that might actually help Donald Trump, and it's pretty clear that that's what Mueller and his team of partisans don't want to do. They want to hurt Trump, not help Trump. They're not searching for evidence.
They don't want truth, is what you're saying.
No,
you're saying they don't want the truth.
No, they would prefer to subvert the truth.
I feel like I'm Jack Nicholson. You can't handle the truth. You're right. Sebastian, last word.
There are a handful of large political scandals in American history. JFK's assassination, then we have Watergate, and then we have the Pentagon Papers. I think this scandal will turn out to be one of the biggest political scandals in the history of the United States.
I talked to a high-ranking individual today, won't tell you who, said this makes Watergate, in terms of Pfizer surveillance abuses alone, look like kindergarten.
I agree. This will be up there with the assassination of JFK. This is how big this is, the political targeting of your enemies using the intelligence services.
That's the key. They did it to win an election and then overturn a duly elected president. Good to see you. You agree with that?
I agree. It's undermining electoral democracy and blatantly subverting justice.
Where's the media, Greg? I'm not the only one.
It doesn't fit with their narrative.
Good point. All right, thank you both. When we come back, Project Veritas is James O'Keefe. He's here tonight. Shocking new undercover videos. Last week we told you about Project Veritas and its undercover investigation into whether or not Twitter, I think I have 3.2 million followers, are targeting conservatives. Now, we played you the shocking undercover videos. One showed conversations with 2 Twitter engineers who explained the tech giant's ability to shadow ban users and how algorithms have been used to disproportionately target conservatives on Twitter accounts. Now, we haven't independently verified, but you get to decide yourself. Here's the video.
One strategy is to shadow ban so that you have ultimate control. The idea of the shadow ban is that you ban someone but they don't know they've been banned because they keep posting but no one sees their content.
Go to a random tweet and like just look at the followers. They'll all be like guns, God, America. Like,
Yeah.
with the American flag and like the cross.
Yeah, no one really
Like who says that? Who talks like that? It's for sure a God.
Like majority of the algorithms are against conservatives or liberals.
I would say the majority of it are for Republicans because they're all from Russia and they wanted Trump to win. So
you mostly just get rid of conservatives.
I knew that. Yeah.
Now, at the time, Twitter spokespeople told us, the Fox News Channel and the Hannity Show, the individuals depicted in the video were speaking in a personal capacity, do not represent or speak for Twitter. Now, the spokesperson went on to write that Twitter does not shadow ban users, but does in some cases limit tweet visibility. Sounds like shadow banning, based on the nature of the interaction and the quality of the content. Who decides? Also today, this is beyond shocking. Project Veritas released their most shocking footage showing huge potential privacy abuses at the company. This time, current and former Twitter engineers admitting that employees view everything that you post on your server, including direct messages you think are private, and create a, quote, virtual profile on you, which they sell to advertisers and brag about looking at, like pictures between you and your girlfriend or whatever. Once again, take a look at the footage. You decide.
So what happens is like when you like write stuff and when you post pictures online, they never go away. Like they're always on there. Because like even after you send them, people are like analyzing them, they're seeing what you're interested in, they're seeing what you're talking about, and they sell that data.
They sell it to who? Like advertisers?
Advertisers.
Wait, you talking about just regular tweets or the DMs? Or both?
Everything. Anything you post online.
Wow. So even what you think is private, direct message.
Yeah,
they're analyzing it and selling that.
Hey, what? So if I send someone a direct message, y'all are gonna look at it to analyze it?
A machine's gonna look at it, an algorithm will look at it.
Why?
And they'll make a virtual profile about you.
To actually charge advertisers for money, we have to prove it was you, and that's why using like an email address or like a cookie, something that can track you, yeah, that's more likely.
If you go to Twitter for the first time, we have information about you.
Okay.
Because like we actually bought a company because of this, like Ads Network. Like when you visit, like, we serve ads for other companies in other people's sites.
Okay.
So when you go and you see that ad, we get the information that you're this person seeing this ad at this moment, at this location, on this website.
Okay.
So we already have a lot of information about you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, what if that fell into the wrong hands? How would you protect people from that?
You don't.
You don't?
There's no way.
It is creepy Big Brother. Like
creepy Big Brother.
I mean, it's like a level of, like, I don't want to say freaks me out, but it disturbs me.
You have access to DMs at Twitter?
Oh, I do, yeah.
Okay. So when people have access to this stuff, they can leak it. It happens.
Oh, yeah. And it's a genie out of the bottle kind of thing after that point. Yeah. You know, sure, I could fire them. Heck, I could probably even sue them in some cases.
Oh, yeah.
But the genie's already out of the bottle.
All right, so we reached out to Twitter today for a comment on this new footage. In response, they gave us a link to their privacy policy posted on their website and said we could use the same statement they shared last week with us, that the individuals in the videos were speaking in a personal capacity and do not represent or speak for Twitter. All right, you see this book right here? He's the author of this brand new book, American Pravda. This is an important book. My Fight for Truth in the Era of Fake News. James O'Keefe is with us. Let's start with the videos, and we'll get to the book. Okay, they're talking about shadow banning, yeah, but it's worse. Direct message, there's an expectation of privacy.
Yeah, Twitter bills itself as the public town square. And in today's video, they're actually talking about looking at your private, intimate messages between you and your girlfriend, your wife, and they're storing this on a database, and they're sharing these messages. They're laughing at them. They're bragging about ruining relationships with these messages.
Like you can bring it to divorce court.
That's what they say in the video. These engineers are on tape. I don't know how many people can speak in a personal capacity. It's become widespread now. It's unbelievable.
You would think they get fired for these things.
Well, now they've learned my memo, so they may be firing them quietly, but that's why it's so important, Sean, that you reach out to them for comment. And it's amazing because we've got 9 different engineers and executives on tape talking about shadow banning or censoring people so your friends can't see the messages. And now they say they have hundreds of engineers that go through private direct messages.
That's unbelievable to me.
Unbelievable.
And there is an expectation of privacy. You know, look, the media hates you. Fair statement?
I would say it's an understatement.
Okay, understatement. This is stuff Mike Wallace used to do and other media used to do, but it's expensive because you get sued a lot.
It's hard. It's difficult, Sean. Upton Sinclair, the Chicago Sun-Times, many of these muckraking journalists throughout the 20th century actually did this. They used to do it. And it's gone. There's this new movie out, The Post, Tom Hanks. I mean, they talk about.
And you try to release all the tape in terms of, you selectively edit. Is that true?
Well, we certainly release most of the tape as much as we can without compromising our sources and methods. But the media releases no tape and asks us to believe anonymous quotes and single-sourced quotes.
Remind people how successful you've been with Acorn. Going back to that, the first time I interviewed you, you were dressed as a pimp in a video. Yeah.
Well, we've shut down government organizations. We've gotten the CEO of NPR fired. We've gotten states that changed their voter ID laws. We've exposed border insecurity, congressional hearings, Medicaid workers fired. We've infiltrated CNN. We've infiltrated the Hillary campaign, and Trump mentioned us in the
everyone made a big
debates.
deal. The Washington Post caught you trying to infiltrate them.
Well, sometimes you get burned, but Sean, that's a sign of success because undercover work, you use an alias to draw people out. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but people.
But that's the only thing they make a big deal out, not this. By the way, if you're a liberal, you should be angry at this tape.
You know, Sean, this book, American Pravda, I write. George Orwell wrote in 1984, which was the year I was born, by the way, ironically enough.
All right, stop. You have to remind me. Go.
George Orwell writes that the people don't want you to believe your eyes and ears. That was the state's or the party's most essential command. We trust the American people, and there's a conflict of visions.
Pravda was the communist newspaper of the former Soviet Union.
It was the Russian word for truth, and Veritas is the Latin word for truth. But the difference between the Soviet Union's Pravda and the American media is people in the Soviet Union knew they were being lied to. In this country, people don't believe how bad it is. And this story is a rollicking adventure story about a ragtag team of citizens.
You also give a lot of history.
Power.
And I will tell you that your success speaks for itself. And I look at it as a badge of honor that I'm hated so much, so I think you should too. I warned you in your first thing, don't look at social media. You reminded me in the book, I had said that to you, I'd forgotten. And also, I said, make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's.
And we have a dozen lawyers now, and it's expensive.
American Pravda, this is a book you got to read. My Fight for the Truth in the Era of Fake News. There's a lot of fake news. Good to see you.
Thanks, Sean.
The great one. Thank me. God bless us. Mark Levin. You want to hear him next. All right, joining us now to weigh in on all today's biggest stories. I call him the great one, and he deserves it. And he is about to host a brand new show right here on the Fox News channel, because it's pulling teeth to get him on my show. And it's called Life, Liberty, and Levin. Thank me. He's also the host of CRTV's Levin TV, the great one. I'm so happy you got this show. I wish, because I beg you to come on my show, but I don't want to waste our time. This FISA, you talk about a post-constitutional America, Mark. Your books on the Constitution are phenomenal. Must read by anybody that cares about it. And we're seeing a presidential candidate fix a primary who gets an exoneration before investigation with Comey and Strzok. I'm talking about Hillary, who then tries to fix by buying, bought and paid for Russian propaganda. And then those lies are used to get a FISA warrant against the opposition candidate and an incoming president and his team. If that's not post-constitutional, I don't know what is, Mr. Levin.
A couple of things about that. As an old chief of staff to an attorney general at the Justice Department, first of all, let me say this. As an American citizen, to watch this is repulsive. It's unconscionable. To watch the mob media do what they're doing. Last week we were told the president was mentally unstable. For months before that, we're told he's colluding with the Russians. Today we're told he's a racist. So he's colluding with the Russians. He's mentally unstable. He is a racist.
And going to start a nuclear war.
It's so disgusting. It's so outrageous. What happened to that author, Michael Wolff? 3 days ago, he was the in thing. Now he's gone. What happened to all the allegations about sexual misconduct? Now that's all gone. Now we're on to something new because a known liar, Dick Durbin, leaves a confidential meeting with the president and other senators. He's relied on by the media because they want to rely on him, just like they wanted to rely on that author. They want to push this president out. They talk about the 25th Amendment. They talk about impeachment. This is the Praetorian Guard media. The biggest scandal in our lifetime is staring them in the face. You, I, and a handful of others seem to care about it, and it is this: the politicization of the highest levels of the FBI and the Justice Department, the holdovers from the prior administration. It's not a question if Jim Comey, the former FBI director, leaked. The question is, how much did he leak? It's not a question if he leaked classified information. The question is, how much classified information? He was the director of the FBI, the chief investigator who was hunting down Donald Trump, sending texts to his girlfriend because he's cheating on his wife. And when I used to work at the Justice Department, you did that, you're out. You know why? Because they didn't want you to be blackmailed by, of all people, the Russians. Now we learn there's more texts which appear to suggest he's been leaking to the media. Now we know, because there's a report. The Trump administration, this is as of 6 months ago, faced 125 leaked stories, 1 leak a day containing information potentially damaging to our national security. Leaks with the capacity to damage national security flowed about 7 times as fast as they did under Bush. And the majority of the leaks during the Trump administration, again, this is as of 6 months ago, 78 concern the Russian probes. Now, talking about the Russia probe, we have a special counsel who was appointed to do what? To investigate collusion. He's investigating everything but collusion. A special counsel does not exist to investigate financial crimes, whether some guy registered as a federal agent or so forth. He's to investigate collusion. Where's your case, Mr. Prosecutor? What's it been, 6 months, 8 months? Give us your collusion case.
Mark.
Now, in addition to him, we have this dossier. This isn't a dossier. This is 35 pages of crap that was put together by this Fusion GPS. The Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC collaborated, used their money to use a law firm to hire this guy, who then hires a British ex-spy, who then works with, among others, the Kremlin. That's collusion. They put this thing together, and they work it, and they give it to the FBI. Now, the highest levels of the FBI are very excited to have this. They're even thinking about putting this ex-British spy on their payroll. What do they do with it? I know they used it to get that FISA warrant in part. You know how I know, though, Sean? Why won't the FBI director, or why won't anyone at the Department of Justice, when they're asked, say, no, it wasn't used?
Hey, Mark, Rod Rosenstein.
Hold on now.
Real quick.
That does not reveal classified information. Just say, no, we didn't use it. But they won't say it, so they did use it.
They absolutely used it. We confirmed last week that they used it. I had one report that said it was what pushed it over the top. Rod Rosenstein went into Speaker Ryan's office, according to my reports, and begged him, oh, please don't make us turn over stuff. Here's my question. It's the last question. You have a minute to go. A media that this is why I want you on every week. We have a media that, they put Woodward and Bernstein on a pedestal. And by the way, they did work, good work, interesting work, truth. And a media that now is so biased, abusively so, complicit even. They went to ask people, well, what their problem is with Fox News and people like me and her. Take a look.
Where do you get your news from?
Not Fox.
Not the biggest fan.
Where do you get your news?
CNN.
Never Fox News?
I'm not really a big fan of Fox News.
I just don't feel like, I guess, they're speaking to me and
but here I am with
my
Fox News
group.
speaking to you.
Well, yeah,
right
well,
now.
you're speaking to me literally, but as far as their messages, I don't think they're speaking to me and my peers.
You walked past me. You said, oh, there's Fox News. So you had a reaction. You saw the mic. What do you think of Fox News?
No thoughts.
No, you had some thoughts.
Yeah.
No thoughts. I mean, I'm not trying to get you here. I really want to know.
I tend to get my news from the middle, not real liberal, not real conservative.
Have you ever seen my videos on Facebook?
I have.
What do you think when my videos come across your feed?
I give everybody a chance. I'll listen. I respect every opinion, and love will conquer all.
They told me that this place is about love and tolerance and welcoming, but
apparently not if you're Republican. That is not the case.
So you see me out here, you know who I am. You call me Tammy. That's fine. We'll just put that behind us.
Okay.
You know, we're gonna move on from that. But you saw me out here with a Fox News mic. What do you think about Fox News?
I don't like it, and I don't really like a lot of your anchors.
What do you think about Sean Hannity?
I think that Sean Hannity is extremely interesting of a person.
What do you mean by interesting?
I mean, just an interesting person. It's a guy with a lot of inner and outer demons.
He's an unfortunate person to have in the news environment.
Isn't that weird that the area that's supposed to be loving, tolerant, and welcome to everyone is not loving and tolerant?
To the biggest anomaly.
You think West Hollywood's an anomaly?
Yeah, because they're always talking about love and acceptance, but it's only when your views match their views.
Every news source is biased now, and I want to get, there's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth.
So if you watch them all, then you can put them all together?
You actually get even crazier.
I get my comedy from Fox News, and I get my news from comedians.
I just want to go back to what you said, though, when you first saw me, you couldn't help yourself. You had to call me Tammy. Do you think that was 100% respectful?
I'm sorry if that hurt
But
your
if we're going to
feelings.
respect each other, I mean, I would never call you someone outside of your name if I didn't even know you. I mean,
Well, baristas get my name wrong all the time, so
yeah,
I mean,
they get mine wrong, too, but you deliberately got mine wrong to be me.
You're right. I'm sorry about
All right.
that.
We don't have a lot of fans there. Fox News contributor Tommy Lahren. Wait a minute. Did he say I have inner and outer demons?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't really hear what your inner or your outward demons were, but, you know, they also said that you and I are both problematic. Fox News is problematic, but yet many of them don't watch Fox News, so I think that they're just guessing. I'm not sure, Sean.
Did you get anybody that liked us? I didn't see one person that liked us.
They couldn't be vocal about it. That's the same thing, though. There are a lot of people, actually, even in West Hollywood, that are supporters of this president, but they wouldn't even dare wear a red baseball cap. Not even a Make America Great Again hat, but even a red baseball cap. They told me that they wouldn't even dare wear that in West Hollywood because the repercussions would be very severe. They wouldn't have any friends. They would be turned away.
I got a great idea for next week. Go back to West Hollywood. All right, sorry. You know, I'm so easy to give the assignments here as I sit in the comfort of my studio. You got to go back. And you got to wear a great Make America Great Again hat, and you got to offer them for free to people. That would be great. Are you willing to do that?
Oh, I will do it 100%. I am absolutely, you know, you heard it here first. I'm going to go back to West Hollywood. I'm going to do just that. I even have a Trump 45 jersey that I'm going to wear. I think we should do it to celebrate the 1 year of his inauguration. I think that's exactly what we should do, Sean. Let's celebrate 1 year of President Trump, and I will go back to West Hollywood.
All right, wait a minute. Now, send it to me. I got to get it signed. You got to get the hat and the jersey signed first. Then we'll send you, and you can say, this is really signed by the president, and see what they do. Or we'll forge his signature just to make fun. We'll tell him the truth after. And then, because we don't have time. And then you can say, would you like a presidential signed cap? And then you can say it's not really signed after they give their response. How's that? I almost sound like fake news CNN.
That sounds great. How much extra security are you going to send with me?
Okay, we'll work. I'll get you a real one. How's that?
We're going to have a lot of fun, Sean.
All right, Tommy, great work. Thank you. And
we're going to have fun.
We appreciate it. When we come back, I would tell you the funniest video of the day we've ever had. Hilarious skit mocking Liberal Joe and Liberal Mika. Oh, my gosh, this is funny. Take a look.
President Trump is at it again. He's using a deeply offensive word when describing Haiti and some African countries. Joining me to break this down is chair for the Center for African American Studies at Princeton, Eddie Glaude. He's talking about Haitians, he's talking about Africans, and the question is this: when will they get to speak? When is it their turn? How long will they be silenced?
I personally...
Eddie Glaude, great points. Thanks for joining us. What do you want to do for lunch?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you want. You're a steak Florentine gal.
Yeah? You gonna feed me my meat? Because you're a dirty dog?
It's so much better. Watch the whole thing. We'll put it up on Hannity.com. All right, time for the Hannity Hotline. Let's hit it.
Somebody else must be able to fill that 9 o'clock hour at Fox a lot better than you.
Sean, your monologue stinks. You spend 30 minutes on a monologue. When you interview people, you interrupt them, you cut them off like a blooming idiot.
I just watched the beginning of your show. You really are something.
You're a cheap little thug with a big mouth, a bigger ego, and 4 brain cells.
1, 2, 3. I have 4. This is brutal, but keep them coming. No matter what, no matter how. I mean, we don't care. 877-225-8587 keeps my ego in check. Let not your heart be troubled. That's all the time we have left this evening. We will always be fair and balanced. Never the destroy Trump media. We've been searching diligently for Laura Ingram's hotline. Nothing.
Well, first of all, I have to say about that SNL skit about Joe and Mika, Sean, I found that very misogynistic. I mean, as if Mika's just going like this and, oh, Joe, please, Joe. Oh, honestly, Joe. Oh, thank.
By the way, I just got my second media-eyed headline tonight. That's you being Mika.
That's misogynistic. I find that to be very
Wait,
biased
can you do Mika
against
one
women.
more time? I want to see if it's a dead on. Do it one more time.
Well, I don't know. It's like Trump is so upsetting. It's not funny. It's not funny. Sorry.
This is
Sean,
great. I'm
great to
sending
see
you to
Sean.
New York.
I'm coming. I'm coming. Great to see you, Sean. And this is the Ingram Angle from Washington. I'm Laura Ingram. We have so much good stuff for you tonight. I don't know if we're going to fit it into an hour, but we're going to try. You're not going to want to move the dial. Keep it parked right there, because with the deadline looming this week, how is President Trump going to deal with the Democrats who are now threatening to shut down the government if they don't get a DACA deal? And we recall the heart and soul of Martin Luther King on this day, the inconvenient truth the left tries pretty hard to ignore. That's MLK's deep and abiding faith. And which state has the worst poverty in America? The answer will probably shock you, and it's more proof that you can't spend your way out of problems. Oh boy, and the celebrity freak out over that erroneous missile alert in Hawaii. My choice words for them are straight ahead. But we begin tonight with the race to the bottom this Martin Luther King Day. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase, Dr. King said more than 50 years ago. It's beautiful. President Trump showed good faith last week in that bipartisan meeting where he allowed the cameras in for almost an hour as they discussed DACA and immigration. And although he didn't see the entire staircase leading to the final agreement, he told Democrats and Republicans, all of them that were present, what he needed to get to yes. He needed an end to chain migration and the wall in exchange for a path to legalization for those 800,000 illegal immigrants. 2 days later, the Democrats, acting in bad faith along with Lindsey Graham, presented him a deal that they knew he couldn't accept. It increased chain migration and did not sufficiently fund the wall. A total non-starter. So after the president nixed it, Senator Durbin rushed out to mischaracterize off-color remarks about the corruption in the third world that drives citizens of those countries away into the United States. Well, that set off a firestorm. Everyone from Al Sharpton to LeBron James weighed in, declaring Trump toxic on the issue of race. And then despicable columns like this further poison the well. Yeah, I love that nuance by Charles Blow. Members of the Congressional Black Caucus predictably are piling on.
I've called him a racist, deplorable, despicable, added to what others are calling him, a moron, ignorant, on and on and on.
Do you think President Trump is a racist?
I think he is a racist.
Now, if I were a conspiracy theorist and watching how this whole thing is played out, I'd almost want to say the entire thing was a setup. Let's talk about what's really going on here. The Democrats cannot afford for Trump to be successful, particularly among African Americans. Unemployment among African Americans was 7.9% in 2016. Last month, it was down over a point to 6.8%. That's a record. Weekly earnings for African Americans up nearly 2%. Home ownership among African Americans has ticked up